Hello, this is a Bechstein Model 9 upright piano that's 124 centimetres tall, made in 1928. It just come onto the showroom floor, so I'm just assessing it to see what sort of work we may need to do to perfect the piano. Looking at the instrument generally, it's a little bit faded on the right hand side. But I don't think it needs repolishing, although you could have the piano repolished, obviously, if you wanted to, if you're interested in it. Just minor scuffs on the casework, and the key tops have been replaced, so that they're replaced. They're ivory look-alike, but they're not ivory, which these days is a good thing. We often find it's difficult to sell ivory, especially if we're exporting a piano, and we have to have a certificate for ivory. All pianos that are sold have to have an ivory certificate if they've got ivory nowadays. Looking at the piano generally, so it's scuffed a bit. Our polisher hasn't looked at it yet, so we can certainly make good the case rather than repolish it, or we can repolish the case if you're interested in that. It's a handsome instrument and very high quality too, so it'd be worth doing. It was previously sold in the mid-1980s and was extensively reconditioned at the time. Good quality reconditioning. The key tops were probably replaced at that time. They need slight buffing, so that's something we would do. And the tapes are replaced, so I think they had the whole action apart and they needed to replace the tapes, which is excellent. You can see there's lots of graphite here, so they've done an excellent restoration job generally. The hammers, I think they're recovered hammers, and they're extremely good tone, so not a huge amount of wear since then. If we look at the end of the hammers, you can see slight indentations in them, so it has been used, but not extensively used, and the tone is very sweet and beautiful and full, so we'll hear that in a second. You can see that the strings are in good condition. I'm looking at the size of the tuning pins. If you can see tuning pins have been knocked in a bit, that's a sign that the strings might be loose, but the tuning pins might be loose, but I've tested them with the tuning lever and they're very tight. There was one replacement string here which has been very well done. Sometimes it's not so well done, but it's the right length, so there's a thoughtful restoration job done generally. If we listen to the tone of that one next to it, so that's the one next to it, and that one, and there's very, very little difference in tone, and a good match with the steel string and the copper wound string, and good break point here. And the very old Model 9s, the first ones in 1901, 2 and 3, the breakpoint isn't nearly as good. They seem to have improved a lot, and the later ones, we can see the serial numbers, the later serial number here, they're ones that we definitely like to get into stock. So the general regulation is very good on the piano. I want to draw your attention to this felt on the left, which they've changed. Now that's a thoughtful restoration, because normally it is the left-hand side that needs replacing, and the right hand side not. So, and then obviously you have to make sure it's not too tight in the centre here, so you have to lubricate it if necessary. Yeah, we will do lubrication here because there's slight tension there, so this needs lubricating with talc lubricant, as we always do. And the front here, there seems to be a little bit of sideways play, so we're going to have to regulate the cricket bats. The dampers are all pulling off very accurately with the sustain pedal, and they're also pulling off nicely with the keys about halfway, so that's exactly correct. We'd have to try and perfect it a little bit if it's necessary, but looking throughout the whole range, they seem to be pulling off slightly later here, which is correct, because they do tend to, the dampers are a bit shorter here, so need to pull off slightly later if anything. So very thoughtful restoration done. We'll obviously try and refine that some more. So the piano's a fine quality instrument. The key dippers look great, so 12 to 12.5 millimeters, should be 11 maximum really, and so we'll be reducing that. And generally in good condition though. The casework means making good, I would say, rather than repolishing, though it can be repolished. If you want a high quality instrument and don't want to pay the extra for the polishing, that's something, yeah, I think it would be acceptable. We do need to lubricate the balance rail, but the hammers a little bit as well. There's one or two hammers that are a little bit sticky, probably not been used for a long time, and taking up the slack on the cricket bats. The weight of the keys is a little bit on the heavy side, so I think once that's lubricated we'll find it brings it down, then we may have to fine weight to get it like a new piano, which is what we're always trying to aim for. The tone throughout is really sweet. I'm going to compare it with some other pianos. This is a similar quality Ernst Kaps. I haven't done a video of this yet. This is made in 1908. Interestingly, this Kaps has got a system where you angle the front panel to create a music desk here. And this is an original 1904 Feurich. This is a Grotrian Steinweg made in 1936. So that's an assessment of this Bechstein Model 9 upright piano. Just come onto the showroom floor, and it's a very fine instrument indeed. It does need regulating. The key dip, if you look at that, you may be able to see the key dip is much more than you'd expect. A lot of electronic keyboards have very deep keys as well. The key dip can be 11, but 12.5 is really a bit excessive. So that's something we would automatically alter, unless you particularly wanted a deep key dip. But the regulation otherwise is extremely good on the piano. We also have to fine regulate it and see what needs doing. There's cricket bats a little bit needing adjustment, but the keys, the central felt on the keys is very tight. We will have to lubricate to get the maximum quality on the touch, and also then we're going to fine regulate the touch. But I'm very happy indeed with the tone of it. It's really beautiful. And I've compared it with 3 other pianos that we have in stock of the pre-war pianos, and the best period for pianos, in my opinion, as a tuner. Much prefer the tone of these older pianos. They're all good pianos really, and we've decided to set the rental price the same for all of them. So if you want to try a piano out, you can rent it. Have a look on the website to see what prices they're at. And of course, slightly differing purchase prices, but we want to get them out there and for you to try the piano and really understand that the tone of the older pianos is really unsurpassed, and we can make the touch the same as a new piano, so there's nothing to stop you buying an older piano to learn on. Very stable piano. This is slightly flat. In fact, it's quite flat, about 3 or 4 beats flat, but the tuning is stable. We haven't tuned it since it's come in, so that shows it's a very stable piano indeed. So thank you very much for listening. If you're interested in the piano, please do write to info@robertspianos.com.